Okay, so for today's deep dive, I want you to picture a scene. It's the late 90s. You've got this 24-year-old guy, fresh out of business school, first real job in high
The
finance.
dream, right?
Exactly. He's at a major investment firm, and his very first task is overseeing wire transfers.
Which is, I mean, let's be honest, that's the grunt work of the financial world.
Total grunt work.
Yeah, it's high stakes. Sure, you're moving millions of dollars, but there's just zero glamour. You're
Right.
basically a glorified switchboard operator for cash.
That's it. He's the guy making sure the money moves when a company gets bought. So this guy, his name is Pete Stavros. He has to make 2 calls to confirm the cash at the account. So first, he calls the CEO.
It's got to be a good phone call to get. Hello, you're now extremely rich.
You would think, but the CEO is just ice cold. It's a transaction. Pete says the millions are there, and the CEO is basically like, got it, thanks a lot. Click. Done.
Right. For him, it's just Tuesday. The payout is expected. It's baked into the contract.
Exactly. But then Pete makes the second call to the assistant treasurer. Now, this is a mid-level employee, not C-suite. But at this specific company, the ownership plan went just deep enough to include him. And when Pete tells him the money's there, the line just goes silent.
The good kind of silent.
The best kind. The guy is so overcome he can't speak. He leaves Pete a voicemail later, and he's openly weeping,
Wow.
crying. Because that one payout, which was, a fraction of the CEO's, it literally paid for his kid's college education. It changed his family's entire life trajectory.
And that contrast between the CEO's thanks and the treasurer's tears, that's the spark, isn't it?
It's everything. It left Pete Stavros with this massive question that basically defined the next 25 years of his career. He thought, if ownership can do that for one mid-level manager, what if you go deeper?
What if everyone owned a piece of the rock?
Yeah.
The factory floor, the truck drivers,
Huh.
everyone.
Everyone.
It's a huge question. And that's our deep dive today. We're getting into the whole philosophy of broad-based employee ownership, looking at source material from Pete Stavros, who's now co-head of global private equity at KKR.
Yeah. And the mission here is to really understand what happens when you shift from just having a job to building an ownership culture.
And this isn't some feel-good, abstract idea. We're talking about tackling worker dissatisfaction, driving unbelievable business results, and, maybe even putting a real dent in wealth inequality.
But to get the solution, you have to get the problem. And for Stavros, the problem wasn't some abstract theory. It was his dad.
Yeah, this part of the research is so important for context. It grounds everything. Pete's dad wasn't in finance. He operated a road grader for a construction company in Chicago for 45 years.
45 years. That's a long time to sit in a machine.
It's a lifetime.
Yeah.
And when Stavros looks at his dad's experience, he sees three systemic problems, three pillars of dissatisfaction that are just baked into traditional employment.
The first one's the obvious one, right?
Right.
The money.
Or the lack of wealth, specifically. His dad made about $20 an hour, which, it pays the bills. But you can't build real generational wealth on an hourly wage. You're just trading your time for money.
And that's the core difference between labor and capital. Labor gets wages, capital gets equity, and equity is where the real growth happens.
Precisely. If the company doubles in value, the guy on the road grader, he doesn't see any of that. He just keeps his job. And that leads to the second pillar, a complete lack of alignment.
Right. Why should his dad care about fuel efficiency? Or how fast the job gets done? He gets paid the same $20 whether the company is profitable or losing money.
It creates this adversarial relationship. The owner wants to maximize profit, the worker just wants to maximize their hourly pay. And that disconnect leads straight to the third pillar, a lack of voice.
Because if the incentives aren't aligned, why would management ever listen?
They have no reason to. If a worker's idea doesn't impact their own wallet or the company's bottom line in a shared way, why bother asking? So you've got no wealth, no alignment, and no voice.
That just sounds like a recipe for total burnout. Or just checking out.
Oh, it's way worse than burnout. It's active disengagement. And the source material has some staggering numbers on this. We know stock ownership, or the lack of it, is the biggest driver of wealth inequality. But the engagement stats from Gallup, 77% of employees globally are disengaged.
77%. So more than 3 out of 4 people are just phoning it in?
Phoning it in, they show up, do the bare minimum, go home. But it gets even darker. There's the 18%.
The 18%.
These are the workers who, according to the data, literally hate their company.
Hate their company.
Stavros calls this throwing wrenches in the machines. They aren't just unhappy, they are actively working against the company's success.
That's a terrifying thought for a business owner. Nearly 1 in 5 people working for you might be trying to sabotage you.
Right. And this is where the conversation usually just stops. Capitalism is broken, workers are unhappy, end of story. But what's fascinating here is that Stavros and KKR, a private equity firm, of all places, they actually tried to fix it.
But they didn't just nail it on day one. I think it's really important to stress that. This wasn't some magic wand. Over 15 years, across something like 44 companies, they tried this and they made some really big mistakes at the beginning.
It's the classic learning curve. One of the biggest early mistakes was just poor communication about the exit. In private equity, you buy a company, you fix it, you sell it. So they told the workers, hey, you have stock and we'll probably sell in about 5 years.
Oh, I can see where this is going. Everyone just circles a date on the calendar.
Exactly. They aren't thinking about improving the business. They're counting down to the payout. It's a lottery ticket. And if the sale takes 5 years and 1 month, people get angry, suspicious. It just creates anxiety.
And another mistake was a lack of transparency. They'd give people stock, but not the financials.
Yeah, it's like giving someone a par but painting over the speedometer and the gas gauge. You have no idea how you're doing. If you want people to act like owners, you have to give them the same data the owners have.
So through all these failures, they learned a really crucial lesson. Ownership cannot be a trade-off.
This is so vital. You can't say, okay, here's some stock, so we're cutting your 401k match, or we're lowering your wage. It has to be purely additive. It has to be incremental.
You can't shift the risk onto the workers.
Exactly. If the company goes bust, they shouldn't lose their retirement savings. That's not fair. So they refined the model. They realized it wasn't about the stock certificate. It was about building an entire ownership culture. And the best way to see this in action is the case study of CHI overhead doors.
This is such a great story. CHI is based in central Illinois, right in the middle of Amish country, and they make garage doors.
Not exactly a high-flying tech startup. It's real old-school manufacturing.
And in 2015, when KKR got involved, it was basically Pete's dad's story all over again.
It really was. 800 employees, a solid business, but the morale was just in the tank. Out of those 800 people, you want to guess how many had any stock ownership?
I'm going to say not many.
18 people. So engagement was dismal. They wouldn't even respond to employee surveys. They just thought, what's the point?
So, enter the new model. Day one, KKR announces all 800 employees are now owners. Everyone gets stock.
Yeah.
And the reaction was not a polite round of applause.
No, this is where the chicken story comes in, and you just can't make this stuff up.
It's my favorite detail. The employees are so excited, so pumped up, that 2 guys from the factory floor walk up to Pete Stavros and just hand him a live chicken.
Just a loose chicken.
No crate, nothing. Pete's just standing there in his suit holding a bird. But he shows this raw, authentic energy. It wasn't a corporate handshake. It was real.
That's an amazing icebreaker. But excitement fades, right? You can't build a business on a poultry rush. This is where the hard work of building that ownership culture actually started. It took 8 years.
Right, and this is the how. Because a lot of people hearing this are probably skeptical. Okay, you give away stock. How did that make better garage doors?
They built it on 3 things to fix those 3 problems we talked about. First, radical transparency. Once a quarter, they shut the whole plant down and shared everything. The financials, the good, the bad. They treated everyone like an insider.
Which is so rare. Usually management just hides the bad news.
Right. Second was education. They gave everyone free financial coaching. Because if you're going to give someone a life-changing amount of money, you have a responsibility to help them understand how to manage it.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want the windfall to just disappear. So what was the third piece?
The third is my favorite because it hits that voice issue head on. They gave the employees an annual budget of $1 million.
To spend on new machinery or something?
Nope. To spend on the workplace, however they decided. Management had no say. The workers voted.
Wow, that's a huge risk. $1 million a year. What if they voted for, I don't know, a water slide?
That's the fear, right. But look at what they actually voted for. One year, they put air conditioning in the entire manufacturing plant.
Which in central Illinois, in the summer, is not a perk. That is a necessity.
It's a game changer for working conditions. Another year, they totally redid the break rooms. They built an on-site health clinic, a cafeteria with actual healthy food.
And see, a cynic would say, oh, they just bought them nice things. But it's not about the things, is it?
No, it's about the agency. It's about seeing your voice physically change your environment. When you walk into that air-conditioned plant, we did this, they listened, It's a profound psychological shift.
Okay, so the culture changed, people felt heard. But here's the big question. Did this actually help the bottom line? KKR is not a charity.
The results were just undeniable. Quality went up, the amount of scrap material waste went way down.
Why, though? What actually changed on the floor?
It's that alignment piece. Before, if you see a wrench on the floor, maybe you just kick it aside, not my problem. But now, that's your wrench. You see a sheet of metal about to be cut wrong, you stop the line. That's your profit margin going down the drain.
So the valuation.
The company sold for 10 times its 2015 value.
Wait, say that again 10 times.
10 times. And to put that in perspective, this garage door company from Illinois was KKR's single best investment since the 1980s. Better than all the sexy tech deals.
That is just unbelievable. So the investors did incredibly well. But let's get to the whole point of this deep dive, the payout for the workers.
This is the emotional climax. They gathered everyone in the plant when the company was sold. The payouts were scaled by tenure, how long you'd been there.
Okay, so let's talk real numbers. Because stock options can sometimes just mean a few $1,000s.
This was not a few $1,000s. The most tenured factory workers got payouts of around 6.5 times their annual income.
So, what is that, roughly?
We're talking about $500,000.
$500,000 for a factory worker.
Yes. And the truck drivers, some of them got checks for $800,000.
Oh my God, that's not a bonus. That's pay off your mortgage money. That's send your kids to college with no debt money.
It's retire with dignity money. It's transformative. It ends that cycle of living paycheck to paycheck overnight. And the quotes from the employees in that meeting, they stick with you. One person said, "It's just freedom. I got freedom."
The future's going to be okay. I saw that one. Think about the weight that lifts off a family, the anxiety of what if the car breaks down? It's just gone.
And there was one sentiment that Stavros pointed out that I think is the absolute key. A worker named Kara stood up and she just said, "We earn this.
We earn this."
That's it. This wasn't charity. It wasn't a gift. The company's value went up 10x because they made it happen. They created the wealth, and then they got to share in it. It closes the loop.
And the ripple effect on the community.
Yeah.
You inject that kind of money into a small town.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about $340 million of wealth going directly into this small central Illinois community.
$340 million.
Yeah. Think what that does. It's not just new cars. It's new businesses starting up. It's more tax revenue for better schools. It means a dignified retirement for hundreds of people. It fundamentally changes the local economy.
It honestly sounds like a fairy tale. So the big question is, why isn't everyone doing this? If it makes the company 10x more valuable, why is this the exception?
Because it's hard. It requires a huge mindset shift from management. Giving up that kind of control, like that $1 million budget, is scary for a lot of leaders. But Stavros is trying to change that. He and his wife started a nonprofit called Ownership Works.
And the goal there is what? To replicate this?
On a massive scale. The mission is to reach 1 million workers and create $20 billion in wealth for working families in 10 years.
That is a huge goal.
It is, but they already have a line of sight to the first 250,000 workers and the first $10 billion in wealth. But they know they can't do it alone, one company at a time.
Right. You need it to be systemic.
Exactly. You need structural change. So they're also working with a coalition to expand ESOP's employee stock ownership plans. They've been around for decades, but they can be slow and complicated to set up.
So the real goal is legislation.
Yeah. To make ESOPs easier and faster to form, especially for big companies. The vision is to go from about 1 million employee owners today to 30 or 40 million. That's when you actually change the structure of capitalism.
It's an incredible vision. And speaking of incredible, we have to go back to the chicken.
The second chicken.
The second chicken. So when the company sold and everyone got their payout, Pete gets another gift, another chicken. But this time
it had a crate.
It had a crate, and it had a pre-checked luggage tag for New York City, which is just the perfect bookend to the whole story.
It really is. It shows that the culture matured. It went from that raw, chaotic energy to something structured, successful, and thoughtful. They learned how to work together.
So we've gone from the status quo through the mistakes to this huge success and the future of the movement. But I want to bring it back to where it all started. Pete's dad, the road grader operator.
The original inspiration.
Pete says people always ask him, what did your dad think of all this? And I think his dad's response is the perfect verdict on this entire thing.
It is. His dad didn't give some long economic speech. He just said, "What the hell took so long?"
What the hell took so long? It's funny, but also kind of stings, right? Because the logic is just so obvious. treat people like they're owners, and them act like owners.
It's common sense that we somehow managed to complicate and lose sight of. We separated capital and labor so much we forgot they work better on the same team.
So here's our final thought for you, the listener. Try this thought experiment. Just imagine an economy where every company operated this way. Not just a few, but all of them. Where every worker, from the CEO down to the janitor, participated in decisions and in wealth creation.
How would that change your Monday morning, your retirement plan? And bigger than that, how would it change the very nature of capitalism itself? If you close that gap between us and them, do you finally get a system that works for everyone?
That is definitely something worth chewing on. And hey, maybe look into your own industry. See if there's an ownership culture brewing where you are. And if not, maybe it's time to start asking why.
Or maybe start asking, what the hell is taking so long?
Exactly. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.